Okie dokie. Who remembers who we started talking about last week? David. And who's David right now? David's a kid. He's maybe James's age, I would guess. 13, 14, something in that range. Right? So he's the youngest of a bunch of brothers. But here's the thing. The kingdom of Israel is at war. They have enemies who live right next door. Anybody know what the name of their enemies are? The Philistines. Can you say Philistines? Philistines, okay. Now the thing about the Philistines is, this is a bigger thing, and I'll explain it to you, but the thing is, some of the Philistines are giants. They're super tall. And there's a specific giant that we're going to meet today, briefly. What's a giant? Someone who's super tall and big and strong, right? So it says that there's a giant, and he's about 9 or 10 feet tall. You ever meet anyone 9 or 10 feet tall? Some basketball players get up to like 8 feet, which is impressive. But 10 feet tall, big guy. That's higher than I can reach, right? 10 feet is as high as a basketball hoop, all right? Like an actual regulation basketball hoop. And he's not just tall and skinny like your basketball players tend to be. This guy is built like a tank. It says that his shield weighed, well, it says it weighed 500 shekels, but I don't know what a shekel is. But it was heavy. And his spear was like a weaver's beam, but let's say railroad tie, right? Big guy, big weapons, big and strong. So he's leading the Philistine army, and King Saul is leading the Israelite army. And they're across a valley from each other. And then Goliath, he comes out and says, how's this for an idea? I think that all of you Israelites, you people of God, you're cowards, and you're small, and you're puny. So I dare you. One of you come out and fight me in single combat, and if you win, we will all surrender to you and we'll be your servants. But if you win, well, if I win, you will be our servants, right? So, he's making a deal. We see this sort of deal in Homer, in the Iliad, if you ever read it. And if you didn't, you should. Right? It's a common thing in this time. He says, let's have a fight. But instead of having our two armies fight, because that would be kind of, well, bloody, what if just two of us fight and then we sort of fight representing everybody else? What do you think King Saul does? Does he go out and fight? Nope. What do you think David's older brothers who are in the army do? Do they go out and fight and say, I'll do it? Nope. Is David there? David's not there. David's home taking care of the sheep. So that's the scene. We've got a giant who's coming out and making fun of the Israelites all the time. We've got a bunch of scared Israelites with their king that they asked for. And we've got David, who was anointed and became the new king, although nobody knows it yet. He's living at home, taking care of the sheep. And his father says, hey, David, why don't you bring some food to the army? I'm betting they're hungry. It's a good thing for us to do. It's our job to help supply them. So David says, okie dokie. So he trundles off, bringing some food to his brothers and a present for the king. And while he's there, he sees this giant come out. And he says, the giant makes fun of the Israelites. He calls them fools for worshiping only one God, because that's what they do. And he says, I bet you're all too scared to come out and fight me. And David looks to the left, and he doesn't see anyone going to fight him. And he looks to the right, and he doesn't see anybody going out to fight him. And he says, guys, he's sort of mocking our God and our people and our nation and our everything. Aren't you going to tell him he can't talk about it just that way? And they're like, have you seen the size of him? I'm not doing that. Nope. Not trying that. And David says, you know, God will help us if you go, right? This is what we're promised. Because they were promised God would be with them. if they went out in faith and in righteousness. Now, maybe they're not righteous, and maybe they don't have faith, but David still looks and says, what's going on? So he says, I'll go. And they're like, you look like James. You're short. Not that you're short, James, but you're not 10 feet tall, right? You're not particularly muscular. You don't even have a sword. You don't have any armor. But, okay, fine, someone has to go fight him. So they try to lend him armor, and he's like, first, this doesn't fit me. Second, I'm not used to fighting with this, but I know how to fight wild animals. I've got a sling, I've got some rocks, let me go. And they're like, he's built like a tank, he's armored like a tank, and you're going to go fight him with a piece of leather and some rocks? It's crazy, right? But then he does it. He goes out there, and he fights him. Really. Evangelos. Angelo. He goes and he fights him. Short little guy. He goes and fights the big giant. He only picks up some rocks. He goes to the stream, he picks up some rocks, he puts them in his sling. You know what a sling is? It's like a slingshot, you think? No. It's like a long piece of leather, and it has a pouch in the middle, so you stick a rock in the pouch, you take the two straps, and you swing it around your head, and you get it going really fast, and then you let go of one of the straps, and the rock goes where you want it to go. It's sort of like, well, I tried it once. It was harder than I thought it would be. But I could still at least hit the broadside of a barn. I recommend it. Just go out in the woods. Don't break a window. So he hits the giant with his rock, square in the forehead, and he falls down. Now, when I was your age, I heard this story wrong, and I thought, and the rock killed him. But no, David actually ran over there, grabbed the giant's sword from his hand, and cut off his head with it. So what's the point? What do you think? If you face a giant, bring a rock, that's kind of a lousy lesson. Remember that you don't have to be strong, you don't have to be big, you don't even have to be smart necessarily, but you need to trust God. And if you trust God and you do what he says, God will be with you, and you'll be surprised what happens. So there's the lesson. Let's stand up, and it's time for communion.